Just 1 second. Okay, we are live on YouTube and ready to go.
So should I just read that heading on the agenda?
I have a meeting script.
Because that does look a lot shorter than it used to be. Oh, there's
There you go.
the one that I know and love.
I can try to make it a little bit bigger. Is that better?
Yeah, it's kind of, oh, yeah, I was going to say it's sort of cut off on my screen, but all right.
Is it okay now?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll start this open meeting. Oh, I have to identify myself. Sorry. My name is Bob Mihalik. I'm the chair of the Northborough Trails Committee, Northborough, Massachusetts. This open meeting of Northborough Trails is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Trails Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Trails Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. The public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to, quote, Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube, quote, via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. State each member's name, say each attending member's name, and wait for verbal reply. Okay, it's a little bit confusingly worded. Let's see, we have Forrest Lyford.
Present.
Bill Cood.
Present.
And Brian Belfort.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative and state your name. Mia McDonald.
Present. I think Jim Stein is here
I
too.
see Jim.
Hi,
Oh.
Bob.
Oh, hey, Jim.
Hi.
Jim Stein.
Present.
Thank you. Meeting business ground rules. The chair will invite each speaker by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call vote. And there's just some notes there for technical difficulty.
You don't have to read that part.
Yeah. So we have the agenda. The first order of business would be to make a motion to accept the January minutes. And I will recuse myself from that since I missed January meeting. My apologies. So if somebody would like to do that, make a motion and then others can vote. No one,
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
have a second.
Seconded. Am I allowed to second?
I'll second now that I've unmuted.
Okay. Thank you. That was Forrest Lyford.
Yes.
Jim Stein, comments?
Were you looking for someone who attended the meeting to second, or could anyone have done it?
Well, ideally, you at least read the minutes. I missed attending. I did read them, but I missed attending, so I thought I should not, But we have two people. I think that's fine. Brian Belfer and Forrest Lyford. So the minutes for January can be.
Bill was here, wasn't he?
Oh,
We do need a roll call vote.
oh, where'd Bill go?
Right here.
He's there.
Go to gallery mode. You got to go to gallery mode so you see everyone.
That didn't do it at all. Now everyone just disappeared. I don't know why this. We use Microsoft Teams at work, and I've been doing that for. Oh, there's Bill. Okay. Okay. So Mia, you said I have to ask for a roll call vote to accept the January minutes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I guess people can say they don't have to vote in the affirmative if they don't want it, right?
That's right. They can recuse if they want.
So, Bill Cood, how do you vote for the January minutes?
I accept them. They're fine.
Okay. Brian Belfer,
I approve.
Jim Stein,
I approve.
Forrest Lyford.
I approve.
Thank you. And Mia, do you get to vote on minutes? Okay.
I don't pay taxes here.
Oh, that's how it works, huh? Okay, so the January minutes were approved in a roll call vote and can be entered into the public record. So now we can move on to the February meeting agenda. And there are a couple things. I just had a procedural question and I guess this could fall under the general discussion and introduction for visitors. In years past, Mia, I've posted this agenda for the entire year with the town clerk. And that was mainly because it has to be posted 2 full business days prior to the meeting. So I think what we typically do is we'll meet the 3rd Monday of every month. So what I was going to do was to send to the town clerk that schedule for the rest of the year. Would that be okay?
So let me just check maybe I can pull it up. So Trails Committee has been bopped around a bit because the Conservation Commission is getting bopped. So we only have one webinar license. The webinar is the license that allows us to solicit public comment.
Mhm.
And that's being shared between all the regulatory boards, ZBA, planning, conservation, anybody with presenters. So it looks like in March, let me just check. The 3rd Monday in March, March 15th, conservation needs to meet that day because planning board has taken the 8th and the 22nd.
Okay.
And so that's why I've been doing it month to month. Yeah, we used to do the full year and it was wonderful to just do a whole year of agendas at once. But because Trails keeps having to get moved every month, the good news is that by April, let's see, we scheduled, conservation is also the 3rd Monday. I'm just making a note. Is also the 3rd Monday in April. But by May, I've been told, and May is the 2nd Monday. Okay. So by May, the town will have a second webinar license.
Mhm.
And conservation won't have to share with Board of Selectmen anymore. So beginning May, we can get back to conservation on the second Monday, Trails Committee on the third Monday. But for March and April, we have to just do tentative dates, like whatever works for you guys. If you want to discuss what dates would work for you, that would be really helpful.
The third Tuesday is fine with me.
Okay. So that would be Tuesday, March 16th. Let me just make sure I'm available. If you guys could check your calendars too. I do have another board meeting that night.
Uh-oh.
We could do Wednesday, March 17th or Thursday, March 18th.
Thursdays are a little rough for me. Wednesday, the 17th would work. I think that would be okay. Tentatively, I guess we could say.
Anyone
mean,
else
it's-
have any conflicts on Wednesday, March 17th?
When it's St. Patrick's Day, I might have to, go out to the pub.
Yeah.
You can-
Brian.
Yeah, right.
Bring your cell phone.
How about we can do the 18th. I think the 18th would be
I'm
fine.
not going out on the 17th. I'm only kidding.
And then in April, you said the third Tuesday would work. That's Thursday, or Tuesday, April 20th. That's fine for me.
Okay.
All right, so I will put those in and I'll probably email you guys like a week or two before just to. If you
Okay.
have a conflict, let me know. We want to make sure that I'm not just, want to
And
get
then
as many people as we can.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
I know
It's
Wednesday,
actually probably not that big of an issue now, Mia, that you can post the agenda. I just had an issue, like, for
Sorry.
example, with the 3-day weekend in January, February, if I didn't get the agenda post to the town by, like, I think it was like Tuesday, because really then it was, had to have it posted, or no, I had to get it Wednesday. They had to have it posted all day Thursday, all day Friday, and then the 3-day weekend, and then we would try to meet Tuesday. And if I didn't get it to them, so I had to get it to them days in advance, and sometimes this, and then official meeting.
maybe in May, we can do that list again and we can post them all out. He just posts one and it's all
Yeah.
there. So return to second Mondays in May.
Yeah.
I don't think we face a lot of those Monday holidays because often the Monday holidays boot the Conservation Commission as well. So
Okay. Let's see. So we did have, I can look at the agenda, damage reports, maintenance, new trail proposals. So one of the things that I just wanted to talk about, and Bill, thank you very much for sending that nice spreadsheet around with all the different trail areas and trails listed on it. It looks very comprehensive. I definitely want to go through it and see, if I can add any additional items on, maintenance problems or, where do we typically find trash and things like that. So
Yeah, it's a rough draft, though. It probably needs some help.
it looks good. I mean, that's it. Thank you, Mia. Yeah, it's a little bit, for example, some of the things like, the high grass trail on row 8 there. Years ago, we basically stopped doing anything with that because it was basically, it's a trail to nowhere. It's more of the fishermen just kind of pound it down. It does have some aesthetic value to it. Because you can get right up alongside the Assabet and it's a very pretty area, but it's tough to get a mower in there. It's kind of got these undulations. So
Yeah, that's the one that I took the brush cutter through last fall, and I didn't really know how much people use it. Then I worked on it for like 3 hours, and there was tons of traffic on it. So I said, well, maybe I better mention it in here. At least, that's at least it's got a sign on it anyway,
Was it mainly people with fishing rods walking down it?
No, people wanted it. They were all heading to the meadow to stand by the river and like take pictures.
Oh, okay.
Did you do these measurements yourself? Where did the measurements come from?
I took the measurements from a lot of different places. A lot of them came off of signs. Some of them came out of data that Forrest sent me. Some of them came from my own GPS measurements, and some of them came from some of the maps that we have on the website.
We should sort of document where these came from. I've been trying to do this for years, get the actual distances of the trails.
Hmm.
The ones you've measured yourself with a GPS, that's a really good point, good piece of data.
Yeah, most of them probably came off of signs and the maps that were on the website. The ones I didn't have, I just took them off of GPS.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust the maps on the website since I participated in most of them. I don't know if those distances were accurate.
Yep, the whole spreadsheet is open to any changes. I just wanted to get something out there so that we can, I mean, it was really started for me because, I was frequently sending mail to everybody here saying, what about this one? What about that trail?
Mhm.
And I thought, well, this would be useful to have for other volunteers that want to help out. We could just send them out and say, here's the whole story in front of you. Anything that's got NTC, feel free to do whatever.
Great. I wanted to grade them too, like difficulty, hard, easy, flat, climbing, up and down,
Yeah, we can add a column for like, some kind of a rating or whatever.
Yeah, hilly. Oh yeah, there's
I have a couple of questions, mainly for me, points of clarification. For the Mount Pisgah trails, there's several there on Mass Wildlife land. Are those still considered Northborough trails, or are we discouraged from using those?
Oh, yeah,
Those are a sticky situation.
Hmm.
yeah. So we're not supposed to be maintaining those. And it looks like Bill noted them as, maintained by Mass Wildlife, and that's exactly what it should say. That you're not maintaining them.
Yeah.
I walked through that whole system in the fall, and I don't think they're really maintaining them, but I just wanted to make sure that we weren't in there doing any work if we really shouldn't be,
Yeah,
Right.
they don't want us doing any cutting. They just want it to be worn down by feet.
I thought Green Street Trail was ours. You have it listed as Mass Wildlife.
Where's
I
the
only
Green
put it
Street
there
Trail?
because it was within the confines of their parcel, so that was my only data at that point.
Where is Green Street?
I don't know which one that is.
Column
Thunder.
51, number 51.
Where about is it on the hill?
Shunder's Trail.
It's at the
Thunder's
very
Field.
far south of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a point of business, I guess, but for the Mount Pisgah trails, we did agree to naming the new Johnson Trail. And I guess that's not on our list yet. I don't know if it's actually been officially shown on maps, but
I left it off because I forgot all about that.
well, it's a to-do item as much as anything, I think.
Yeah.
And also the Shunder property, for years we've been trying to come up with good names for trails down there, and I don't think we've succeeded yet.
Right.
But something to think about anyway.
Oh, I thought Green Street Trail was part of Shunder's. So you're saying Green Street's part of Pisgah?
Hey, there's a Green Street Trail at Pisgah. Do we want to go through this line by line?
Yeah.
Probably not at this point, huh?
Well, and
Why not?
we could take a brief look at each area and comment on it.
Yeah, I mean, Yellock looks good. And believe me, I don't want to discourage anyone from mowing or maintaining the high grass trail. I was completely unaware that, maybe now with the COVID change, people are out more.
There's been tons of people on that trail.
Yeah, am I correct in saying that's that little dead end trail
It is, yeah. It goes down right along the river there.
for maybe 100 feet, 150
No, it goes
feet?
more than that. It's about 0.2 miles.
Oh, I must be quarter mile long. Yeah, I'm thinking of something else though, then. Or
Well,
unless
what
it just got
happened, Bob,
beaten
is,
down.
it went in for a little while and it went to the river where the fishermen's, but it continues on pretty far in there into the big meadow. And I think that's what people like to go down and look at. Is when I was out there that whole afternoon, there must have been 10 different people that went through there. I'm like, wow, I thought this was a dead trail.
Yeah, me too. But hey, that's great. You know, that's why we're here. So, what kind of mower did you get in there, Bill?
I just used the brush cutter.
Oh, not like a weed whacker.
Well, yeah. Well, I used the blade and a power hedger head on for the briars and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. And not when I mowed it, I tried to actually bring a lawnmower in there. And,
No,
and it,
most of the stuff that's coming in is coming from the side.
yeah,
And I just took the power hedger head and carbide blade for the bigger stuff on the ground.
okay. Yeah, that's great. I had no idea that it was that popular, but okay, that's pretty good news.
Everybody that was on it wanted us to extend it out to Old Farm. Of course, we already had that conversation.
I mean, I would do it if we could, but
It might last about a month and then the thing would wash away, right?
I've only seen that area really flood one time. And that was when we got 10 inches of rain over the course of like 2 days. That was pretty much all water in there. But other than that, you know, it's wet and marshy. I was able to walk almost all the way across it several times to get to the Beaver Point, I think it's called, on the old farm trail. There was about a 6-foot wide stream that I put my foot in and almost immediately went in like just about up to my waist with one leg. It looked like it was 6 inches deep, and it was. There was maybe 6 inches of water and about 3.5 feet of mud. So, but yeah, that would be really nice. I remember Cheryl Devine was talking about that years ago. We just hold something across there and make a nice loop.
I think Forrest said that they did build a boardwalk in there and it washed away, right, Forrest?
Yeah, Jim can probably remember that. Do you remember, Jim, we spent some time out there putting in boardwalks, and that 10-inch rain, I think, occurred within the next year or so, and things got washed away. Yeah, several bridges in that area got moved actually during that episode. But like Bob said, that's the only incident that I think we've seen in the last 15 years or so.
Yeah. You know, if we anchored something in there with those helical screws like they used on the Burroughs Loop Trail. But then again, I think we'd have to get 20-foot long helical screws to get down into some solid ground.
Well,
No
there's
go.
a lot of it that's floodway and no structures are allowed in the floodway. So
Yeah.
that the stuff in the Marlboro was floodplain,
Mhm.
which is the 100-year floodplain. But the floodway is actually, I think we looked at it either last month or the month before, and there's a large, thick swath of floodway. And federal regulations, there's no structures left just because they become projectiles during a hurricane.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, we connected the boardwalks to posts driven into the soft sediments there, and that obviously didn't work.
right.
It was a good try anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we could cable them to trees, to nearby
Yeah.
trees, but
And the cables broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the next section? Mia, if you could scroll to the left. So, I mean, that for Yellick, that looks pretty comprehensive. Stirrup Brook. So that's the trail behind the high school. There's the little connector that goes out to the aqueduct and Nature's Classroom. I think those picnic tables are still up there and stuff. That was an Eagle Scout project years ago. Yeah, that's pretty much, that's all that's out there.
Yeah.
Did we have Old Farm Trail up above? Did I miss that? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So that's Then Edmund Hill, Summit, Goldfinch, Edmund Hill Trail, Proctor, Pine Tree, Meadowbrook. That looks comprehensive. There are some little spur trails from people's backyards, but they can maintain that themselves as far as I'm concerned. If they've worn in a little 50 or 100-foot path through their backyard, actually most of them will probably be upset if we went and with the chainsaw or something and started near their backyards. Couple new trails. So I saw in the minutes, Brian, that you did the switchback trail up to the Edmund Hill, top of Edmund Hill. And then there'd be Mia, did we hear anything from MassDOT about the ADA funding?
We didn't get it.
I
know. I did want to ask you if you wanted, like, maybe if you want to do it tonight, we can after we look at this, but maybe look at the layout and pick a portion, and Forrest can help with this, the flattest portion, and start raking in a loop if you'd like. There's no reason not to move forward with one section at a time, and we're going to keep applying. The DPW director and I have been talking about other applications. We're thinking about going for the park grant in the spring, and I think it's like an 80% reimbursement grant. It's what funded the town common. So we're going to keep applying, because to pave it is going to be like $250,000, but there's no reason we can't start raking it in and using it. So
okay.
Yeah, I talked to Liz briefly the other day when I was getting my shot, and she encouraged Trails Committee to proceed with a walking trail, basically the loop that we've laid out there. And it wouldn't require a lot of effort to make it not accessible, but at least old people friendly.
yeah.
Just by removing a few stones here and there and cutting some stumps and so forth. So, something to think about.
Well,
Maybe
I think
when we're
when
done with the spreadsheet, we can take a look at it. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, when the snow melts in the spring, we have a whole lot of work to do up at Edmund Hill. So I think we'll have lots of opportunity to wrangle a bunch of people and do a whole bunch of new trail work up there.
Mhm.
And break it out into sections, assign it to Eagle Scouts. They can even name it like the southeast loop of the Northborough. They like to have like a finished product.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to picture where some things can go now, because a bunch of rocks and things. I was mountain biking at Mount Pisgah 2 days ago, and it's the smoothest it's ever been because you're just riding on snow. Like these things that are normally just covered in rocks, you can just zoom right over it because it's basically down snow. It's actually really nice. But yeah, it's hard to tell what's underneath there, and especially with more snow on the way, I think it's going to be probably a couple months before we can really get visibility. But yeah, that looks like a good list, Bill. I don't see anything that stands out that's missing from there. And that Rice Ave trailhead, I mean, that is, I've taken fish tanks out of there. One of our unofficial volunteers found a full case of beer that was stashed. Apparently kids were planning on going there that night, and she found the beer before they did and took it. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's kind of a deep trailhead. It's easy, for people to pull in, swing their car door open, throw a bunch of stuff out. They don't even have to put it in reverse. They just do a U-turn and they're out of there in 30 seconds, and they dump a bunch of stuff. Yeah, not a heck of a lot. We've been asked over the years, can we put trash cans at trailheads? And, unfortunately, I think that would just encourage people to clean out their cars, and you'd have the legitimate uses of the Dunkin' Donuts cups and things like that. But I think people would be like, oh, well, hey, I'm going to go hiking. I'll just throw my trash out at the trailhead, and I don't have to pay for the bag to do it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with that. I'd love to have trash cans at trailheads, but Who would empty them? That kind of thing. Sort of an infrastructure thing that we couldn't handle as a volunteer organization. And I don't think the DPW wants to get into trash collecting at trailheads either. Cool. But speaking of trash, and I'll forward this to you guys. I did get an email from her name is Susie Sislika. I don't even know if I'm saying her last name right. She's the chair of the Community Affairs Committee. They're going to do a virtual town cleanup, a virtual sign up this year for town cleanup. And basically it's going to be, they'll coordinate so the DPW knows where to drop off trash bags. And then, it's not going to know, we're not going to rally anymore at, a school or a church or anything and then disperse. Basically, you can say, okay, well, I'll clean up, Talbot Street. And then you just go and there'll be some trash bags and you load them up and tie them up and leave them there. And then the DPW will come out and get them. So I'll circulate that. I think Mia, you forwarded me that from maybe. But I'll send that around for the virtual town cleanup.
That's great. Yeah, we usually attend. Could you send that to me? Because usually we reach out to Conservation Commission as well.
Okay.
In the past, we've had like a table, but there's going to be no home event. But.
Right. Yeah, that's what she said. It's kind of like a virtual sign up thing.
And DPW says the same thing you do, Bob, that they don't want trash cans at the trailheads because then people drive there and you don't just get people. I mean, definitely you get people cleaning out their cars all the time, but then you also get basketball hoops and lawn chairs and sofas and mattresses.
Yeah.
Because they know DPW is coming and DPW doesn't have the manpower to do it. We also don't even have, I don't know if you know, but the town contracts Republic Services, just like you guys do. We don't have like a dumpster or a dump. So the dumpster at Town Hall really just holds, it's a very small dumpster and it really just holds enough for Town Hall.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there used to be the town dump over here near Route 20 and Davis Street. And that's been capped years ago. And so, yeah, everyone has to pay to get rid of it. So, like I said, it'd be nice to be able to do that, but it would get abused. So any other comments on the Edmund Hill area? I think that's pretty comprehensive there, Bill. And then it looks like we got Cold Harbor, Harney Park. That's the unofficial town dog trail. Oak Ave. Oh, I know Oak Ave. That's just that little spur that goes into that neighborhood.
It comes off the other end before it goes into the wooded area. It goes off to the right and goes into that neighborhood there.
Yep. And then Beaver Loop. I haven't been out to see if that still goes out to Church Street or not. There was a pretty big beaver dam years ago, but they put in some sort of siphon that's upstream of the floating bridge to keep trying to drain the beaver dam away. And but I haven't been there to see, and it probably wouldn't serve any purpose now in wintertime, but to see if we used to be able to go right across that. There's a nice bridge that I think the Rotary Club put in 20 years ago or so. And then you could come out onto Church Street.
Yeah, that's all wide open. Yeah, I've walked it a bunch of times in the fall.
Okay. Definitely.
There's a water problem right after that Rotary Club bridge. I think at some point it might have to put something there, like a bog bridge or something. But I think in the spring, it would probably be the biggest problem. Right now it's frozen.
Yeah.
And in the fall, it's a little muddy.
Yeah, and there wasn't a huge amount of motivation to go to Church Street because you can't park there. Just sort of like, I used to run on that trail, and I would just run to Church Street, just more of a psychological thing to say, okay, I'm at Church Street, now I'm going to turn around and run back home. But I think most people are content just to walk out across the floating bridge, do the Beaver Loop, and head back. Just because there's not a heck of a lot at Church Street.
I've run into people walking their dogs and jogging that come from Church Street on that trail a number of occasions. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of traffic.
Yeah,
I've seen people access it from Church Street.
yeah. There's not much of a trail easement there. It's only maybe 25, 30 feet wide.
Yeah.
I always wondered what's on the other side of Church Street. Could we cross over Church Street somehow, heading north up towards 290? And I heard there was a way to get under 290, which I've never really investigated. But almost like a cattle tunnel. I think it's a drainage ditch or something. But it's almost big enough. The cattle tunnel at Lyman Street. It's like that, but it goes under 290 is the rumor. And then I think you come out near the this conservation property that SVT manages at the Rostron zone. And then you're at the Green Street, the Shunder's Field. But I don't know. I don't, even if there is this tunnel under 290, access it. Is it safe? Does it have sharp pieces of rebar sticking out of it? Like, I don't know. That would be cool, right? Because then we could connect. There'd be a good reason then to go to Church Street, because you could cross over, head north up towards Pisgah. Just something to think about.
For the Pisgah piece of this this spreadsheet, this is probably where it needs a little help with respect to what's NTC maintaining and what isn't it. This was an area of confusion.
I mean, that looks accurate to me.
I didn't
All
know that.
those. I'm not 100% sure where the Green Street Trail is, but Howard Ridge, Howard Brook, South Ridge, South Gorge.
What about
Those are
that
all
Bennett
those.
trail.
Bennett is private? That's a surprise.
I don't think Bennett's private.
Part of it
I
is.
only said private because it didn't go on any town parcel on the map, but that was my only reference.
That's that super steep one on the south side.
It has the bike ramps on it, right?
No,
Yeah,
not Bennett.
It did at one point. I don't think. I mean, I know Bennett doesn't show on the map that it's in the pink Northborough-owned part, but my understanding was that was a fully sanctioned trail because it ends down at Howard Street.
Yeah, that's always been my understanding.
And I know SVT put some of their nonsensical signage down at the base at Howard Street. So I don't know if perhaps SVT has claimed it as theirs.
Yeah, that's on the Berlin side though, Brian, where that bus turnaround is.
Yeah, but the Bennett Trail in its entirety is in Northborough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because to
I
get to the
walked it
Bennett
in the
Trail,
fall, and it had no trespassing at the very end of it. I just turned around and left.
what was that, Bill?
I walked it in the fall, and maybe I'm not on the right trail. I think it was a Blue Blaze trail, and I got to the bottom, near the bottom, and there was like I said, there was a private property, no trespassing sign. But there were people coming through, so I was a little confused, and I'm like, well, I'll figure it out later. I just turned around.
Yeah, the
I
way
mean,
it's
from a maintenance perspective, that thing is totally like it's either self-maintaining or we're not going to do anything. It's too steep to muck around with in general.
yeah. I
And
mean,
maybe we can just make a comment on the sheet, and then we at least we'll have decided what we're going to do there.
well, I mean, on the Bennett Trail, if there's a tree across the Bennett Trail, I'm taking it out. It's a very popular trail.
Oh,
That's the one I was thinking of for difficulty, extremely hard.
Yeah, that's numero
the hard
uno in Northborough. That's
Yeah.
like a White Mountains presidential range type steepness in some areas on that.
now, now that toward the bottom of that has another spur that goes up on top of a ridge that I think lands at the south overlook. Am I thinking of the right one? I think it's a trail that may not be maintained anymore.
There's a trail if you're at the bottom, essentially looking up the Bennett Trail. There's a trail off to the right, which is a switchback climbing trail that heads back up to the access trail off the north overlook. None of
That's
this
right.
stuff is on the current map because SVT has decided that the trails they don't like, they just take them off the map. But if you look at a Trail Forks or a Strava overlay, you'll see everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I found. I walked the whole thing one day and I overlaid all my GPS tracks onto the map that's on the website. It's like half of them on the eastern side aren't even marked.
Right. Yeah, so
So-
some of the, I think there is one that goes, if, you know, the view that we're looking at now where the Bennett Trail is roughly going east-west. If you walked uphill on the Bennett Trail, I think you could make a left turn and essentially then you're walking south and you'd end up to where the little hand is. And those houses there, their property extends fairly far up. In fact, those aren't property lines, are they on there?
Yeah, so this Bennett Trail, this little sliver up here, this is owned by the Northborough Conservation Commission. This is private land. This is private land. This, you can see this these two parcels.
Yeah.
This is recently purchased, this backland. And this trail actually, it goes, there's a little spur here, but it also goes back to the Tyler.
Okay, so that was the one that I was on. Yeah, because there was when I walked it in the fall, somebody was in there with a skidder doing some logging on the land there, clearing.
These folks here, these are all Bennett's, you know, in-laws or you know, these are the four Bennett, 1, 2, 3, 4, are the Bennett children of the original Bennett family across the street. There's a Bennett over there too. So we're hoping the long-term goal, since these Bennett sold the backland to the Open Space Committee and Conservation now owns it. Oh, and we're putting the CR on it. Once the CR is completed, it's at the state the conservation restriction is at the state right now being reviewed. Once we get that, we can go in and map this and get it on. It's actually, Blaze, you may have seen little red triangles. The owner was like, somebody put these little red triangles on my property. So there is a little trail here. And then these two here and this little squiggly here, this is the ones where we have no written permission. The landowners allow it as long as people behave themselves, but there's no written permission. So it's kind of an informal trail.
We want to make a note of that on the spreadsheet. So I guess
Yeah.
Bennett is a maintained trail at this point.
If we consider, see this south portion, if we consider that in the way it loops back here, if that's also Bennett, then yes.
Well, that last trail doesn't have a name,
It could be Bennett, you know,
does it?
it's referred to as Bennett. People talk, when I was
Oh.
with, I think he was Ken Bennett, the owner. He was like, this is
Oh.
the Bennett Trail. And he said, because this, I think it's either a sister or sister-in-law. I said, that goes on my sister's property. It goes up this way.
Yeah, but all right. Well, that's odd because everything I've heard of the Bennett Trail is just the one that it basically goes straight up and down the fall line.
Right.
That
but-
other
Right.
trail is not the Bennett Trail. It's, I don't know, Bennett Trail B.
Mhm.
Yeah, the one they just put the hand over, that's the one that it goes down with the bike ramps that I saw in the fall.
This one.
Not that one, but the other one, yeah. Right there, yeah.
No, the north-southish one had the bike.
Oh,
ramp.
really?
Th-
This
Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, that had the bike ramps.
Oh, okay. I haven't been on that one.
And the
didn't know.
logging was around there too, Bill.
Yeah, there was a skidder in the woods at the bottom of that hill.
Yeah. That surprised me because I was like, who's cutting trees down on Northborough property? I had no idea. I didn't even, I mean, the Tyler Trail, I would have bet $1,000 that was all Northborough. I didn't realize any of Tyler was on private property. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
these trails are from the original farm. The Bennett farm went all the way up. Let me see if I believe this property here
Oh, you know
Right.
what?
was
Makes sense
donated.
now. There's a rock wall up along there.
It was part of the original dairy farm.
All
That's,
right.
that was this house down at the bottom across the street.
Mhm.
This was the house, and they own the land all the way up the hill to the top. And Mrs. Bennett, the mom, before she passed away, donated, I think she either donated or sold for a reduced price, this portion here where the hand is now.
Hmm.
And that abutted, the back was a whole bunch of hunting ground, the Whipsanucky Hunting Club, and some Boy Scout and Girl Scout camp areas. So all these old trails are all old hunting paths. They've been around for generations. That's why
Maybe
they
we have Bennett
crisscross.
North and Bennett South.
Good idea. But that's why they crisscross property lines, is because they were there before the property lines were there.
Very interesting. Well, yeah, so I think maybe then, I mean, I've always approached maintenance on these trails as, you know, as needed. You know, if there's a widowmaker hanging over that's going to take somebody out, then, you know, we have two choices. We either remove the widowmaker or we shut the trail down. So I would usually, you know, get a pole saw or something and cut the branch down, or if a tree blew across there. But, you know, nothing dramatic of, you know, oh, let's widen the trail or anything like that. It's basically, you know, respect the existing trail corridor, just try to keep it open. You know, don't move any rocks, don't build any water breaks. Just if it falls across the trail, take it away, and that's it. And in fact, in some cases, I think we've left things there, and there was enough traffic up there where already, you know, if a tree falls and we don't get to it for 2 weeks, with the amount of foot traffic up there, there's already a path worn around where the tree fell. And in some cases, we can just leave it. And now we have a natural switchback that was created. So yeah, that's interesting that there's so much private land that I wasn't aware of after doing this stuff for 20 years on the Trails Committee. But okay. Yeah, and then the mass wildlife stuff is definitely the same thing as you know, the other area like over near Cedar Hill, which is they don't want anything done. A huge tree falls across the trail and blocks it. Now people may walk around that. There's nothing we can do about that. And I think they said a couple years ago when we met over at their building there in Westboro that they wanted to see over the years, you know, what was the foot traffic, like the real foot traffic. So not like driving a lawnmower through there to keep the trail open, but if we stop maintaining these trails, which ones would revert back to their natural state and which ones essentially would stay open merely because of foot traffic. And I think a lot of the, you know, those trails on mass wildlife property are very heavily hiked and biked. And, you know, we did lose the one over near the model airplane field on Lyman Street, kind of. But it's really wet there. I mean, stuff just grows like crazy. But for the most part, we went through there on our mountain bikes not too long ago, and you can still get through. And so we'll honor their request not to do any maintenance, but most of them are still passable.
I mean, Little Chauncey, I was just through last month, and looks like it's a super highway through there. It's all packed down, and it looks like I mean, there's no overgrowth right now because it's winter, but it's easily passable.
Yeah.
So back to Pisgah for a second. There is a plan to update all the maps, get Bennett on there. We've got data from CMRPC. They went up and did the Johnson Trail and really update the maps and science private property. But our GIS department is extremely busy with COVID. They're, you know, just getting it. First, they got everybody remote, and now they're just constantly spread thin with remote meetings. And now with the vaccine clinics, you'll probably see them there bringing in computers and iPads, getting people registered. So I'm not going to ask them to help me until COVID's over.
Yeah, we don't need map updates now. It's not the highest priority.
Well, I just feel bad because, this has been a priority for a while, but COVID's been a while too. So
Yeah.
we're just kind of on pause for it. We'll do the best we can.
I've been asking David Kane for help for 10 years.
He's excited. He loves mapping and he's excited to do it. And we've got some of the data of a couple like the Johnson Trail, and really update the maps, reprint them, get them in the kiosks, but everything's on hold.
I don't see the Johnson Trail. Where's that?
That's the new one.
Brand new, Jim.
Mhm.
Well, it's newly named. It's not a new trail.
If
That's
you
the
go on
loop connector.
Yeah. There's
Do
two.
we have
When you
any
go on the
data we
loop-
can put on it now? Or I didn't see it on a map, so.
I blazed it, and we have signs, and I'm going to put signs that say lead to private property. The plan was to put the signs up this month, but I haven't been able to get out of the office at all. My 3 office mates were out for over 2 weeks. So I was the only one in the office. So I have had no site visits this month.
And that's a NTC trail?
Yep, there's 2 loop connectors coming off the loop. We decided one, since it goes on private property, we're going to put a sign that just says leads to private property. And the second one is the Johnson Trail.
Bill, that one's marked on Trailforks. If you've looked on Trailforks,
Does it say Johnson Trail?
it does.
Did
because
you name it?
I did.
Awesome. It exists.
Yeah, okay, I'll take a look at that. No, I didn't see it there, but
Remember what blazes. Okay. Did you want to look at this one?
a Little Chauncey is another area that's confusing because of SVT and some of the other, it's not 100% clear what NTC should be touching, particularly the ones that are SVT or shared trails. So any input there would be great.
So I can tell you a little bit about SVT, Bill. They're good at raising funds and determining parcels of land to purchase, and setting up these conservation restrictions. But they have always struggled with getting people who want to do maintenance. And so with Dan Stimson, who's he's a full-time SVT employee. I forget what Dan's title is. He would never say to me, don't mow the grass at Crane Swamp, the Crane Swamp Trail, or, don't cut the tree down that fell across the connector trail. Like, we've got someone to do it, or, that kind of stuff. Like, if there's anything at Sawing Loop, Walnut Hill Trail, Connector Trail, anything out there, he's actually emailed me on some occasions and says, hey, someone said there's a pine tree that fell down, in place X, can you go get it? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. So, I kind of view that as, yeah, it's SVT. And if I was out there and somebody said, and it actually happened one time, a gentleman who was a lawyer who volunteered for SVT started questioning me as to what I was doing. And I just told him, I'm helping out Dan Stimson, doing some maintenance. And he's like, oh, okay, that's all I need to know. So that was pretty painless encounter. I did have a hunter one time get pretty aggressive with me. He wasn't armed at the time, fortunately, but he was out scouting for deer spots. And I don't know if he knew where he was exactly. He was on the connector trail. He wasn't, and I don't think that's Mass Wildlife. But anyways, I was out there with the mower and he comes waving his arms, telling me, doing the thing, telling me to cut the engine. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, you're disturbing all the wildlife, and it was like August, we're like 3 or 4 months before deer season. And I said, we maintain these trails. Like, if we didn't mow the grass on these trails, there would be no trails. And he's like, no, there'd be enough foot traffic, blah, blah, blah. you know, and it was like a 15-minute encounter of talking in circles with this guy, telling him that I basically ended up saying, look, we're going to maintain these trails. If you want to hunt, you either hunt here and you know, try your luck, or go somewhere else. But we're not going to stop maintaining these trails just because you want to hunt deer. You know, so you get all kinds of things out there, you know, encounters, very friendly, quick encounters, but you know, it's helpful. I don't know what this lawyer would have done if I didn't have Dan's name on the tip of my tongue, or if I wasn't aware of SVT. I don't know what this guy would have done. You know, but it was a very friendly encounter that with him, and a kind of an aggressive encounter with this hunter. But yeah, we've never had any issues really. You know, especially that Crane Swamp Trail, you know, because it's wet on both sides, those trees have terrible roots on them, and they just fall across that thing all the time. You know, pretty much 2 or 3 times a year, that trail gets blocked by a fallen tree, or a tree. There's so many vines there that the vines just pull the trees down. Right, those are the worst things, because it's an ivy and prickers and a dead oak tree wrapped in vines, and you've got to make like 1,000 chainsaw cuts to remove a 6-inch tree off the trail. But yeah, so I think from a maintenance point of view, you know, if you're out there, just Dan Stimson is the name you want to say. If anybody asks you what you're doing, I don't know if we got you a vest, Bill. You might need a vest.
I have a vest.
Oh, okay, that helps a
I'd
little.
rather use the name. I'd rather use the name Bob Mihalik.
Well, the lawyer that I talked to, you know, when he told me he did, you know, pro bono work for SVT, you know, having that SVT name, that was my golden ticket right there. But yeah, so that's kind of the deal with that area. I think it's all fair game from a maintenance perspective, because of SVT's historical problem of, you know, of getting maintenance done. They really appreciate our help. They do have a mower, and you know, more than one occasion I've gone out there to mow and it's been mowed. So I load the mower back up in the trailer and go park it back at the police station. But more often than not, I go there and the grass is a foot tall, and you know, and it needs to be mowed. So yeah, but that, you know, that looks pretty comprehensive. Oh, sorry. One thing we don't mow or maintain is that I think it's it's got the kiosk at the top, and there's a bench.
That's at the very top on the hill there.
Yeah, it's a big open.
Yeah, that's the Cedar Hill Trail, isn't it?
That's
It
the
goes
top
up
of
and
Cedar
over.
Hill. It's like a
That's what I
meadow
was
up there.
thinking.
Yeah. So someone mowed or did something last year. I think they drove like a Bobcat machine up in there that had a like a brush hog mower on it. Somebody blasted up through one of those, you know, that old brick structure on the Crane Swamp Trail.
Yeah, it's the old pump house.
That old pump house. So they went by there. Did they even get that far? Yeah. And then you make a left. You go off the Crane Swamp Trail and you make a left and you start going up. It could be the Cedar Hill Trail for all I know, but they brought some kind of big tractor up in there, and I think the purpose was to mow that meadow of the seat where the kiosk is up at the top with the park bench. And so that's the one thing we haven't done and haven't really had to do, quite frankly. There's no trees on that, so there's nothing to fall across.
Right. Well, that's the first trail on the list, right? That's the Cedar Hill Trail, and it's SVT deals with that maintenance.
Yeah. But like Plantation, they don't touch. We maintain.
There was a
Plantation.
blowdown on it that was recently cut. So unless one of us did it, I figured it was SVT.
On Plantation Trail?
Yeah. Came down like November.
Yeah, that was probably them. Yeah, I hadn't been out there to do that. Sawing Loop, that's us. Walnut Hill Trail is us. Connector Trail's us. Crane Swamp is shared. Little
Walnut
Johnson.
Hill us?
Yeah, yeah, I do Walnut Hill. That's terrible in there with the vines.
Well, there's a lot of big wood in there too.
Huge wood.
Does
Um,
Sawing connect to Westboro?
The Sawing Loop is weird. It's half and half, Jim. I think literally that's divided. There's almost vertically, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and we've got the western half, and I think Westboro's got the eastern half of it.
Yeah, I think we should just mention it connects to the charm bracelet.
Something
Yeah.
that hasn't been clear to me for ever since the Mass Wildlife got involved was the Talbot and the two Cole trails. Are they on Mass Wildlife land? I see their blanks here, but it hasn't been clear whether
It's really close, Forrest.
is it. I was
Yeah,
afraid we were
Couldn't
breaking
figure
them
it
off.
out, so.
I think it's partly Mass Wildlife and partly Town of Northborough.
Now, I've cleared two coals recently because they needed some help. But I didn't see any SVT signs through there, so I figured it was probably us.
Call is
Yeah, and
maybe-
then the only
Art-
concern there too is if it's, if some part of that is Mass Wildlife, technically, we're not supposed to do anything there. So what's that mean? That's Lyman.
So you were looking at the Talbot Trail.
Yeah,
This is, it says Westboro State. It could be Mass Wildlife. Oh, no. That is Zero Lyman. You know Chauncey Hall on Lyman Street? It's the same property. So it's currently managed by DCAM, the Department of Asset Management and Maintenance. And it's going to be confusing. They may parcel off. They're demolitioning Chauncey Hall and they're going to put a DCAM facility there. And then there's the auto yard, the auction yard, same parcel. The town has made it clear, like I told DCAM, that the town of Northborough wants to exercise their rights of first refusal. We'd be interested in purchasing, and it's a top priority for the Open Space Committee.
Good.
So I hope that DCAM doesn't take the whole parcel. I'm hoping that they parcel it off. But I do believe that's one also with the water tanks. Yep.
Somewhere in
So
there.
right now it is owned by the state and managed by DCAM. And then that's most of the Talbot Trail and most of the East Cole.
So what does that mean for those two trails? Does that mean we have to leave them, or?
They're fine. Yeah, just keep maintaining it till we're told not to. We haven't been told not to maintain them. There are areas out here, but you know where they are, where Fish and Wildlife has taken. So when all this Westboro State stuff, when Westboro State went defunct and, the town of Westboro bought some of the property, it became that Chauncey Del Webb over in Westboro. Fish and Wildlife took some of the parcels. The town of Northborough, I'm not sure if we were ever offered it, but we didn't buy it at the time. No one wanted it, and it went to DCAM. DCAM is the one who holds all the abandoned properties. And so now DCAM is coming in with permits to conservation to demo some stuff. And I let them know that we were interested in, the town was interested in purchasing any property that they weren't using. So again, it'll have to go back to the state agencies again, maybe some of the state agencies took a pass because there were the nuisance buildings, the old power plant, Chauncey Hall, the water tank. Those are all attractive nuisances. So they're going to go back to the state agencies. And then if none of them want it, it'll come back to us. DCAM has emailed the town to let us know that they're planning on putting a facility at the Chauncey Hall location of their own. But then across the street, the airplane field they were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
that's over here. And is that also part of the Talbot Trail? Is that what that's called over here?
It's
That's Little Chauncey right there.
This, oh, that's Little Chauncey, you're right.
Were
So the
those buildings demolished? I think those
No.
buildings near where the hand were is right now are gone.
Yeah, I think those are gone. I think this is an old, but the airplane folks are getting booted. They're actually looking for a new location.
Ah,
Their lease is up next year.
that stinks. That was fun to watch them.
Why are they getting booted?
The state doesn't want them to renew their agreement. So Fish and Wildlife might take the property over. We'll
Oh,
see. We'll see how it unfolds. So right now, as far as let me open up the Excel spreadsheet again. So Talbot Trail land ownership will just say Commonwealth of Mass because it's undetermined.
So, so for clarity, we will continue to maintain Talbot and Cole until someone actively tells us not to.
They're there, they're being used.
There's signs, there's markers.
Yep.
And then we talked about Little Chauncey. Okay, that's correct, Mass
Now,
Wildlife.
Little Chauncey had SVT signs when I walked through it a month ago. Are they in there now?
Let's see. I'll look without resharing. It just says Commonwealth of Mass,
Yeah. All right, no biggie.
but the ownership is changing.
All right, well, that definitely clears up a lot of stuff. That's good.
yeah. Yeah, I agree though, Bill. That's a super confusing area. There's a lot of overlapping sort of claims, I guess you could say. But I think as long as we're conservative and, you know, we're not blowing through and making new trails and that kind of stuff, I think we're pretty safe. And we stay, you know, I noticed actually at Pisgah, there's some new Mass Wildlife signs. It would be good, I think, from a public relations perspective, if they delineated their property boundaries better. So people would know, like us trail maintainers would know, like, whoa, okay, wait, this is now Mass Wildlife, I'm stopping here, kind of a thing. But they've never really done that.
They were trying to put those circles, little circle emblems on trees at their property line. They probably a year ago, not this fall, but the fall before.
Okay. Let's see, we got Jubilee. That's a classic trail. That's just a loop, you know, one loop. Oh, I had a question about Jubilee. Would there be any, so people park right alongside the road to get into, it's kind of on the way towards Ski Ward, off to the right-hand side, right after I think it's called the Church of Christ. And then you're on Southwest, no, that's not Southwest cut off. West Main Street. And so I was wondering if I cleared the snow from that little parking area. There's like a little kiosk there and it says New England Forestry Foundation.
You'll need a front end loader. I was over there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And that's actually what made me think about it, Bill, because you said you parked up on the drive, that driveway that's, I think, the people who own the mulch place back where the army tank is, you know, a little bit farther down the, you know, the opposite way. There's that army tank, and across from the army tank is like they have the mulch and stuff. I think that landowner lives up that road there. He probably wouldn't want us parking on that road, but I was thinking, you know, maybe hack away at that wall of snow there. And I just don't want like W to get mad or the police or something like that. But I'd certainly try to open up that parking area there.
What I've noticed since is people are parking behind the church and they're walking up into the woods. You can see the tracks.
Oh,
So I think people are improvising at this point. I don't know if that's any better than where I went, but that's what's happening.
I mean, if the church doesn't mind, I wouldn't mind asking the minister or whatever they call them, pastors or whatever, if they're okay with that. That's actually a pretty darn good solution.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether someone just did it on their own on a weekend, but when I
Probably.
was in there, I saw some tracks coming up from that parking lot. And it's only probably 75 feet from the parking lot to get into the trail. So
Oh yeah, Yeah, it's right there. Um,
Those
Yeah.
parcels right along the road, there is a wide right of way, like an old pull off, but then the parcels right there are owned by New England Forestry Foundation. So we should check with them before doing any parking clearing.
like shoveling snow, Mia.
I think shoveling would be okay, but any vegetation removal.
Oh yeah, and I was just talking about like in the near term because there's a big wall of snow right there, where people would typically want to park. And yeah, it's pretty solidified now. But I wouldn't mind hacking away at it and just trying to, to create a parking spot for a couple cars.
I'm guessing that the New England Forestry Foundation wouldn't have any problems with that. I mean, I'm not even sure it's on their property, is it?
Do you see this wide right of way here?
Yeah,
That's an old Route 20 thing. I guess they were pull offs.
yeah.
Think of the Stirrup Brook Trail, over
Right.
by Marlboro. So this is one of those, nobody owns this. You can't click on it.
Mhm.
But these here are all owned by New England Forestry Foundation. But I'm sure they wouldn't mind any snow removal.
So Mia, if you could drag that map down, so like West Main Street is down near the bottom of it. I don't know if it will let you drag it or not. I'm just wondering who owns the property north of the Jubilee Trail. Oh, that's a big parcel. Is that
The
all?
town
That's-
owns that.
It says
That-
New England Forestry.
No,
We own
we're-
this one.
Yeah.
See this little one here?
Hmm.
So I was wondering if we could connect the one you just clicked on, Mia, that the town owns.
Mhm.
If we could connect that our existing trail into that town parcel that you have highlighted, I wonder if we can somehow circle back around to the Jubilee up at the top. Like who owns that one?
This is Zeco.
That's Zeco there?
Yep, and I think these are all Zeco.
Oh, okay. So that's all private.
And then this is another private, Nancy and Bruce Warren. It's on this common drive. So it would go across their common drive and the Warrens. We could try to see. Oh, my computer's being a little slow. Let's see if it's their yard. Oh, it looks wooded.
Yeah.
Yep. So we could try to reach out. Does anyone know the Warrens?
No. But that would be neat. We could kind of, go up into that town-owned parcel, and then head west, potentially across the very back of the Warren property.
This is a common drive, which is on New England Forestry Foundation's property.
Yeah. Is there
Or
anything
that.
north of the Zeco properties?
I know there's a reservoir somewhere Forrest has talked about. I think it's pretty far
Like
north.
that?
though.
I wonder who owns those parcels.
This is all Zeco,
Oh my
Family.
gosh.
Zeco Michael, Zeco Patricia. I don't think that's town Northborough. Oh, it
Oh,
is.
boy.
Yep. These are,
That's Northborough?
it is, but it's Settlers Road, which is in Shrewsbury.
Oh,
See this road here? So these are lots off Settlers Road in Shrewsbury.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a thought because there is a little trail kind of worn in that goes, I'm looking at it now, probably goes in across Zeco property and just kind of dead ends in the middle of nowhere up there.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, it would be great if, somehow we could make this Jubilee loop bigger.
Oh,
But
Settlers. That's where the shooting range is.
yeah,
I
there's
think he
weird
moved.
signs up there.
I think he moved, but if the signs are still there, there was a man back here, might have been a Zeco. He had a lot of land and he had his own shooting range and then the other properties moved in. I think he has since moved.
Yeah, the signs are like, you are under surveillance, you're
Oh,
entering,
I thought it just said live fire,
or something. Yeah, it was,
caution live fire.
it was really weird stuff. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I was exploring up in there just, again, just to see if we could connect, because it's all wooded. And it's pretty easy to stay far away from any of the residential structures. But, then I encountered those signs for the shooting range, and I'm like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to get anyone upset. But, okay, do we have access to this type of a map, Mia?
Yep, this is on the town GIS.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
the trails are under recreation. If you click recreation. Right here. And then land use and open space. There's a lot of great stuff on there. That's just
Yeah.
open to the public.
All right.
This is open to the public, this map thing?
Yes. I'll show you where. It's on, if you go to the town website, this is just town.northborough.ma.us, right here, GIS and maps. Themes, recreation. And you can zoom in, there's Pisgah.
Very nice.
It is.
I used to go here, but I get frustrated with the crudity of the maps. Looks like it's been updated a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's
It
all.
needs update again.
There's that little spur on Oak Street,
Mhm.
Beaver Loop.
In fact, the Green Street map that I created was from the old version of this website.
Okay.
I don't know.
This
I
is what
think
we
someone
print the
just-
maps off of now. When you say print up a map of Edmund Hill, we print it off of this. So we try to update the layers in this. So we have to update the new summit, the new location of the summit reroute and Pisgah's Johnson Trail, and the new 615 Howard Street Bennett Trail. We have the data, we got to get it in there, update this, then we can print from this. This is our ArcGIS data.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah. So are we, did you want to keep going on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, we could take a quick look. I think it gets easier because, Jubilee is that one loop.
I think it's almost done anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
These
Watson
little
Park,
ones.
that's where you fix the bridges, right, Bill?
Yeah, the Watson Park, that upper loop, that's a little tiny thing.
That was you don't know, Bill, but that was the world's quickest Eagle Scout project, was that upper loop of Watson Park. I think Mary L. Stone, a scout came, he had like 2 weeks before he turned 18 years old. And he's like, I need a project. And we went out with Mary L. and they blazed that trail and raked it in record time.
I went to his board of review.
That was pretty classic. He was panicked for sure. Assabet Park Trail.
That's the one with those book stations.
Oh, yeah. The former Whiskey Hill. Is that used to be known? Yeah. There is some maintenance needed there, not massive amount. It could even be, there's a few little blowdowns. They're probably covered in snow by now. But I did take a walk through there about 2 weeks ago. And so far, surprisingly, only one kiosk has been smashed, which I rebuilt. With the amount of stuff that falls in that little section of forest, pretty amazing that, 15 kiosks are still there and only one's been damaged. And then Shundersfield. Yeah, we can probably work on naming some of the trails at some point.
Right, we maintain the loop trail on the hill there too. So we
Yeah.
do. Bob, have you ever actually mowed that meadow, or is it just the farmer?
I'll mow the path straight across where the
All right.
4x4 posts are up to the entrance into the hillside.
Yeah.
And then usually every fall, I guess, the farmer comes in and cuts the really, 3-foot tall grass down and bales it up.
Yeah. I've done a bunch of maintenance on the hillside loop trail, though, not in the past 6 or 8 months.
You want to
So
add
that-
that loop trail there, or does it belong under Pisgah?
No, this is at the edge of the meadow. It goes up the hillside in the woods.
Into the
Okay,
woods.
so we can
Yeah.
put it here then, I guess.
Yeah. No, there's an actual trail there. The SVT map of that shows like multiple trails, but there's really just one loop trail.
Yeah. I think
Alright.
initially when we blazed it, we made a couple loops, but some of them were through like really rocky, kind of wet areas. They never really got used and they just kind of grew back in. I
Yeah.
guess that's like the mass wildlife approach, see who walks on it, and that's what we maintain. But yeah, so it's basically you go across the meadow with the forested hillside in front of you, and you go into the forest, and then there's a loop that goes around through there.
Yeah, I put some orange blazes on that trail. It's been several years now, so I don't know if they've survived or not, but
There's the
pretty
the
well
blazes.
marked.
The blazes are still there, and the main trail is still pretty apparent. Some
Yeah.
of the sort of alternate routes have definitely faded away.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then up at the top of that trail is where a couple of years ago I was putting some mountain bike features up there, but I did that prior to getting official permission. So probably at some point I should have our friends at conservation walk through there or flag it and ask them to walk through it. And then if they don't want to walk through it, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Because it's a nice spot. Bob, you and I were up there, like 2 winters ago. There's definitely some opportunity up there for a little more mileage of trails if
Yeah.
we're looking for spots that we actually own and can do work on without too much trauma. That's a good target.
Yeah, it's a nice area. It's not very frequently used. I know some people who go there specifically to avoid people because it's used pretty infrequently. And long term, maybe we can somehow go across Green Street, and I think it's Howard Brook that runs through that meadow.
Howard Brook.
Yeah, maybe get some kind of easement up along Howard Brook up to Mount Pisgah and connect Green Street with potentially, but it's all on the north side of Green Street, it's all private property now. But there was a landowner there who did some logging a couple years ago.
There's that huge section of private property where it's posted no trespassing, but there's no development there. They don't do anything there.
Right.
You just
And I
hunt.
know there used to be a trail there, but maybe it's time to revisit. Though it would go right onto mass wildlife land, so I don't
Ooh,
know.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brian.
It may be, and I think asking mass wildlife to add a trail that leads into an area where we're not supposed to be doing any work.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's questionable.
We can't go on. It's DeFutis property. And
Yeah.
he knows, I met him a few years ago and let him know we were interested if he ever were to sell it. But right now he has no interest in selling. So
Okay.
the Open Space Committee is on their agenda Monday. They're gonna try to fire up their landowner outreach again. And so I've written down the Warrens, and then DeFutis is always on their list.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's just a little 20-foot wide easement along Howard Brook.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
we
think he
should.
would just be interested in selling.
Say an easement might be more palatable than trying to just buy the land, but who knows?
We could just do a letter. We usually do a letter and send it out, maybe mention the easement. But he does hunt up there. I spoke with him like 4 years ago, and he does actively hunt up there, and he doesn't want people. That's why he posted I found there was a landscaper posting those signs and a camera and moving some boulders, and he was using a piece of equipment like a Bobcat So I stopped and I said, are you doing any additional excavation? He said, no, Mr. DeFitis just asked me to put these boulders here because people have been going up here. There is a trail that leads up to Pisgah. Sorry, my dogs just came in. That goes up to Pisgah, and he doesn't want people on it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just accidentally muted Bill. Sorry, Bill. I muted you by accident. I meant to mute myself.
No worries, that might be a good thing.
Let's see. So it's getting towards 8:30 now. So let's see if we can do this and not use up all of everyone's evening hours. But
I just wanted to say Aqueduct Phase 3, I think that's the bridge part, right? So that's not really, there's no mowing there.
yeah, technically, phase 1 was from the bridge. No, from near the police station south to Marlboro was phase 1. Then phase 2 was the part near Edmund Hill Woods up to the Berlin town line, was phase 2. And then phase 3 was the little section basically from the Northborough police station heading north across the historic bridge that goes over the Assabet, and then another 50 or 75 feet and you're at Edmund Hill Woods entrance, roughly. So that's at least the original nomenclature that was phase 3. Essentially, the big was getting across the Assabet on that Stone Arch Bridge, which is still, a plan. Something that we're working on. It's MWRA said they would assist. I don't know if they still have that.
So I do have an update. I'm going to but I'm starting to nudge not National Grid, MWRA again, and trying to get the next step is last spring, right before COVID hit, like January, February, I had met with a contact from National Grid. The first step to get the bridge is to assess the poles. I guess that's the first hurdle, is the poles need to be realigned, the lines are too low. The National Grid was about to give us like a cost estimate to do an engineering report on what it would take with some different options to move those poles and move the lines. Then COVID hit and we were asked to just be put on hold. That was November and then April. So now I'm going to ask them again. I just emailed them last month, right before your last meeting. I emailed them, and instead I said, would you let us hire our own contractor? And maybe he could suggest, because if their engineers are too busy, then maybe we could find someone who could come up with some engineering costs and project estimates. And then once we do that, those are the phases. The first step is to move the poles. First an engineering report, then move the poles. Once the poles are moved, the bridge has been evaluated. The MWRA did evaluate it, and it's fully rated for pedestrian traffic. The only thing it would need is new decking. The decking is a trip hazard because it's just all pulled up. Unfortunately, because it's rated for pedestrian traffic and the accessibility, it has to be done with smaller equipment. So they did this over on the Wobbin Arches. It's the same type of bridge, but theirs is longer, and it was about $1 million to replace the decking. If you go to their website, if you Google Wobbin Arches, you'll see what $1 million got them. It's just like a black top, and then it's literally sauna tubes with it's chain link fencing on either side, because the fencing that's on the top of that bridge is ornamental. It's only like 2 or 3 feet high, so it wouldn't pass current building code. So the same thing on the Wobbin Arches, ornamental. So they had to do 6-foot tall chain link fence along the length of it, and they did that by sinking the posts in sauna tubes. Kind of ugly. It's not the most beautiful thing. Like, I know a lot of people come in and they're like, how's our bridge of flowers coming, Mia? And I'm like, I may not be getting a bridge of flowers right away, but I don't say that. I just say it's coming. So it said, engineering report, move the poles, then we contact MWRA. They will parcel it off small enough that it and create a parcel that they would decommission, and the town would have right of first refusal, and there would be the town wouldn't have right of first refusal, but they would parcel it in such a way that it could not be used for any type of development. So only the town would be interested, and the town would have to purchase it, and I don't think they charge us very much. So, so we're moving along. I am starting to nudge National Grid again, because, you know, I know it's not a priority for them, but maybe they could give us a contractor. So if any of you know anybody in National Grid, let me know. We can make some phone calls.
I'm surprised they don't pay for moving the poles, that we have to take that cost on.
They just moved them. I started in July 2018, and that summer they were moving the poles. And I was looking and I was like, we missed that window. So they're not planning on doing anything for a long time. If we had got in on their window, you know, they might have thought of it, but.
Yeah, so that's certainly a longer term thing to do. But ultimately, that's, you know, that's the goal. Then we'll have that entire corridor open. There's a part on the way towards Barefoot Road. I think that essentially we just have to come out onto the road, cross over the road. And then there's the CSX tracks up in that area. But there is a street level crossing already for the CSX tracks, and then, you know, cross over the tracks, make a right turn, head north, and you're heading up toward Pisgah. So it's yeah, it'll allow for a lot of connectivity. Basically, it'll connect the whole Crane Swamp area, Cedar Hill, Crane Swamp, with Pisgah, you know, heading up the east side of town. So that's pretty significant action. Burroughs Loop. Yeah, I can fill that part in, Bill. There's quite a bit of Northborough, different trails in Northborough that are on the Burroughs Loop. Stirrup Brook, Old Farm, those are the main ones. Aqueduct.
For this particular spot, my idea here was to list anything that wasn't already part of an existing trail system that we would maintain. You know, like at the other end of Old Farm, when it leaves Boundary Street, you know, so who maintains that piece, you know, just as an example.
Right. Yeah, that would be us. That is the one new segment that we made, which is instead of taking the Old Farm Trail to that parking lot area, that's a bit farther down where you'd walk past the old cars and go around that second meadow.
You bang a right and you go up on the road.
Yep. Exactly.
So is
that's
that's maintained by NTC as well?
Yep.
Okay. And then if there's any part on the Southborough side, maybe down, is that Sawlink Farm area?
That's where I kind of lose where Burroughs Loop Burroughs Loop may go through Sawlink.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, I saw signs for it at the bottom of the Walnut Hill Trail. I didn't follow it, you know, going east.
It does. It overlaps on the SVT land. Just like it goes right on top of some of ours. It goes right on top of SVT trails.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe down the Crane Swamp and up and over Cedar Hill. You know, there's a lot in there. I think it's got to cross the train track somewhere. I think in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, CSX is like, and I'm just paraphrasing, but I think they don't allow official trail crossings or something like that, but it's like one of these don't ask, don't tell things that the military had. But yeah, I don't know how the Burroughs Loop Trail would not end up crossing CSX tracks down in that Southborough, Northborough area. But yeah, it's pretty complicated stuff down there. And then the northern part's pretty straightforward. It's, you know, Stirrup Brook Trail behind the high school, cross Route 20, get on Old Farm. That little connector trail, we didn't name that. It doesn't have a name. I don't know if it needs one, but it's an opportunity.
We should give it a name.
Yeah. I'll have to think about maybe some of this. Oh, they had a thing on Chronicle about the broken down cars that are parked in that area, and I forget the name of the family. But Barrison?
Benison, Alan Bez. I'll get it. It's on Facebook.
Besenson.
Besenson.
Was that the Alan guy who's always on the group there? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
he's full of knowledge around that area for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Bob, you want to name a trail after him?
yeah. Are we allowed to? Allen's Trail? Something generic like that. My coworker's husband is a fairly high-ranking National Grid guy. So I'll ask a question about some of this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's sawing, Walnut Hill. Connector. Oh yeah, Crane Swamp Trail
Yeah, it's
up
over
and over
existing
Cedar Hill.
trails.
Yeah, our maps only show the Northborough trails. They don't show the Westborough pieces that connect to it.
That's right. This is from, if you go to svtweb.org/BLT, or you can just Google Burroughs Loop Trail. This is the interactive map. So it goes along the trail track, with railroad tracks.
So this
Unofficial.
is BLT. Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's the aqueduct there, crosses Bartlett.
And then you guys were talking about the Boundary Street. I'll go in there. This section here next to Windsor Lane.
Right.
See who owns it. You own it. It's the sewer commission, but they let you put it in, so.
Is that little? That's that little easement between there's the three houses there on Boundary.
Well, I think we own it. We own this zigzaggy piece,
Yeah,
but
but
I believe it's owned by the sewer department.
you
it's
see that
future
parking area though,
wastewater.
Mia.
Parking
So
areas up here.
Yeah. I think the connector trail we made goes between, you see those three houses there?
Yeah, it goes right here.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I think it goes right behind Windsor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right, it does.
Yeah,
It's that wider easement, or well, not
Yeah.
easement necessarily, but yeah. Oh, there it is. There's the dotted
yeah, this
line.
is from SVT.
Yeah,
And then this, we'll update ours eventually and we'll get it in there.
yeah, we made that 1 or 2 summers ago.
Mhm.
Bunch of raking. That's all it took. And somebody had a bunch of pallets. One of the Windsor Lane homeowners, I think, was packing pallets up in there, and we just had to move them.
So did you want to name that?
I think eventually we could give it a name. I don't know if we'd have to tackle that tonight, but maybe something historical on the I think it's the family that owned the farm that they parked the cars there.
Forrest, do you remember the name of the family?
Yeah,
I can't think of it off.
Heitzma.
Heitzma,
Heitzma.
Haitsma.
M.A.,
Heitzma.
yeah.
Doesn't
Sturbrook
really
Farm.
roll off the tongue very.
Bezanson doesn't either. It's a good name though.
They showed the sign of that farm on Chronicle the other day. It was, the Stirrup Brook Farm. Yeah.
Mhm. It's still there.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, and I think that was it for the list, Bill. Then the only other thing that, and I don't know if the Shrewsbury Trails Committee representative was planning on joining us tonight or not. Her name is Melanie McGee. And we did a little exploring up near Northborough Crossing. Shrewsbury has a trails committee, and they also passed the Community Preservation Act, I think fairly recently. So they've got access to some funding as we do. And Mia, thank you for those account balance numbers. And but what we were thinking is that parcel that Mia had shown there, that little kind of spike that comes down, in between two houses on the Shrewsbury side, which is the west side of that somewhat vertical line, there is an easement, and potential access to come into this parcel from the Shrewsbury side, and then essentially hike up north through a wooded area and eventually come over behind the nursery. That's on that has their frontage facing on West Main Street. But this is the whole Hop Brook flood control area. That also in that funding update that Mia circulated, we did get Community Preservation Act funding for now 7 years ago, 2014, to put a small parking lot on a piece of property that is on Davis Street that Department of Conservation and Recreation owns. And it would allow access into this area. There's a nice flood control dam, very similar to the Kearney Park Harbor Trail area. It's a similar structure that's in there. There's also wooded areas in here, and it could connect up. There'd be some sidewalk that you'd have to go on to get up through the Northborough Crossing area, but then you could go back into the woods. And those woods extend over towards Melanie McGee's neighborhood in Shrewsbury. So it's a really nice area. It's a beautiful forest. It would literally just be, to rake out a trail. The underbrush is very, it's a mature forest, so the underbrush is pretty sparse. Nice topography there, some little rolling hills and things like that, and beautiful trees and stuff. So it's definitely worth pursuing. There's some issue with the flood control dam, that there is some federal mandate to reinforce these flood control dams with like steel plates or something like that. And I think one of the delays in having them allow us to build the parking areas, they wanted to do that reinforcement process before they opened it up for public access and passive recreation. But come on, 7 years. Let us hike.
Actually, Bob, they had taken it up again, because when I spoke with the Office of Dam Management, they said that was a federal regulation and they were not going to be enforced upon to do it. Then that changed and they said, we have been being forced to do it. And so right before COVID, this was probably January, February of last year, they did go out there and did some test pits and some borings. And they told me, because they notify me when that's exempt. You can do test pits and borings without having to file a permit. And they said that they let me know that they were going to be doing that, and that notice of intent was coming, a big permit was coming. And I think it just got put off with COVID. So there was movement right before COVID. They did do the borings.
Darn. I mean, they were out there probably in 2015 or 16. They had a dumpster there, a roll-off dumpster. There was an old, like an old automobile salvage yard in there.
Yeah, that was a different project. They had a permit from Concom to do that too.
Yeah.
They were doing some, it was just like the top organic layer. They were just pulling out scrap metal, things like that.
And some wiring harnesses.
Old dishwashers,
Yeah.
things like that.
So I saw that happening and I was like, oh yeah, our trail's next. But that was like 2016. And
yeah, they are going to reinforce the dam. And then once the reinforcement is done, I did ask them, I requested in writing to the engineer that they would consider using that area that we want to put a parking area in as their mobilization for their equipment. Then they would clear it. And they responded they would keep that in mind, but they also said that one of the possible designs for the reinforced dam included breakages in the dam that would then exclude it from being a trail at all. So we just have to wait and see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seems counterproductive to have breakages in the dam, but I know more than I do about flood control.
I imagine it would be like V wares, overflow structures, that kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I've seen it. Well, yeah, so it's pending. I mean, and the only reason this resurfaces is because of this contact from Shrewsbury Trails. Hopefully being able to expand. The nursery does not want us on their property. That's an active nursery with, they've got front end loaders moving through there and stuff. So that's understandable. So there'd be a little bit of sidewalk usage, hopefully with the permission of Northborough Crossing property owner, that sidewalk.
You could just use the sidewalk. It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, at a bare minimum, Shrewsbury on the Shrewsbury side, they're going to pursue, doing something in there, and then ideally be able to cross over into that parcel that you just highlighted, and then that little point right on the kind of the eastern side. There's a tiny little point there that basically comes right out onto the sidewalk.
Okay.
And so that's where we could sort of pop up into Northborough Crossing property, walk down the sidewalk, and ideally into the wooded area, where the flood control dams are. So that just happened. I met with them weekends ago, I think it was. So just starting to scratch the surface there. So I think that was all I had. Did anyone hear from George Curtis lately?
He replied to my email. He said he doesn't do Zoom and he'll join again once you're live again.
Good. Sounds like George. Well, that's good. Glad he's not knocked out with COVID or something like that. Well, that's all I had. Did anyone else want to bring anything up, or shall we make a motion to adjourn?
Let me mention a minor maintenance thing. The Cold Harbor Trail near Cherry Street, it's pretty wet in some areas. Could use some boardwalks through there. And the long boardwalk could use some shoring up in places too. So that might be a Boy Scout project or something.
Yeah. There's a seasonal hornet's nest there too that we've got to watch out for.
Tell me about it.
Oh. Okay.
I've been there.
I was wondering about, it's difficult with everything iced in, but would a partial dismantling of that bridge at the end where the hornet's nest, would this be the time to try that?
Yeah.
Boards up and shine a flashlight under there. And I don't know what these bees do. Do they dig holes in the ground? Or is it a traditional like paper type of nest? I don't know what we'd find if we pulled a few boards up in there. But definitely not something to do in the summer. Hopefully weather, but it's just there's quite a bit of snow now out on the trails. I have a feeling it would be somewhat of a difficult project to undertake. Where is that?
So are we thinking where you want to try to replace that elevated boardwalk entirely, or just reshore it, or redo piers for it?
Where is it?
That's
This is Cherry.
Yeah, I
This is
think on the
Cold Harbor.
long boardwalk, it just needs maybe some cement blocks or something under there to shore it up in places.
Well, Bob and I were out there probably 3 years ago at this point, and in the wet season, it's like that thing is sitting in the water.
Yeah.
So if we want to do any reworking, that would have to be a spring thing before everything has turned to mud, or like a midsummer or fall thing, just to make it just to even physically be able to walk through there without just sinking into the water. I'm all for it, but we just need to that can we can add that to the growing list of bridge work we need to do, but that one's really seasonal dependent. Like we really got to hit that
Hmm.
at a time of year when we can actually do it.
Yeah.
When I was out there in the fall and I cut all that brush off of it, when I was out there, a number of people had asked, are we going to fix the boardwalk? And I asked them, well, what do you mean fix it? And they all pointed at there's a section that kind of is sunken in and is hard to stay on because it's not level. And they
Mhm.
all pointed at that. And I'm like, oh yeah, we can probably throw some logs or something under there just to level it out for now. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you meant, Forrest. That was a complaint when I was out there in the fall.
Yeah,
So where
and
is
this
it?
map, Mia, it's more to the right a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the actual trail here.
Yeah, and it's where
Is
the
it in
hand
here?
is. Yeah, in there, maybe a little more to the east.
Okay.
So as soon
Is
as you
about
as soon as you come out of the woods.
yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we stay out of that floodway. Again, it's this red and blue stripe.
Oh yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
the
We're
other
pretty
side.
far from
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, like what Brian said, you can see where it comes up from the southern part and starts to curve west a little bit, and then you come out of the woods, and then you're in essentially like the meadow-ish area there. And I think it's about 175 feet long.
Hmm.
That was an Eagle Scout project. And we used actually, when Charlie Bradley was the chairman, so that was like 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we used one of these, he knew one of these property owners, one of those long, we call them the pork chop properties. We used one of those driveways, got permission, and we basically, it was nice, we brought these boardwalk sections essentially almost right where they had to be. It was maybe a 25-foot transportation of take the boardwalk off the pickup truck, walk it in the meadow, and for the most part, we just rested them on cinder block, which I'm guessing over the years, have sunk into the mud, and maybe more cinder blocks, or again, with the helical pier thing, I like that system. I just wonder how far we'd have to go down before we hit solid ground. With that pier system, that would be awesome. Maybe we just go in, and I've got a long, like a 10-foot long piece of steel rebar. I mean, we could pound that thing down and see when we strike something solid. And if it's like 5 or 6 feet down, maybe we could put some helical piers in there.
Let's talk to Priscilla from Marlboro because she did the piers across Boundary Street.
Mhm.
And so I've never done it, but my impression was that it could be mushy. You didn't have to hit solid ground with the
Oh.
piers. They just had to be a certain length. She'll be able to give us more information.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, because we're not driving equipment across these things. It might be, a couple thousand pounds, might even that 1,000 pounds max, I think, would be fine. Yeah, it's certainly worth it to pursue. Not a bad idea.
I'll email her.
Yeah, but that's definitely, like, I think if we could probably do some temporary shoring of it. Like we could maybe get a couple cinder blocks in there and re-level the really bad spots. But I
Right.
think that whole thing is probably a candidate for like a full-on rehab. Like pull the boardwalks out, get the piers in, redo the whole thing. And that way, we don't have to touch it again for, 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would
Certainly,
vote, yeah.
it's definitely long enough to justify, that sort of time investment, and it's very popular. It's an incredibly popular trail. And Forrest, I don't know, George Callipy, I think is his name. He bought Phil Gott's old farm, which is on the map here, kind of up around the bend there on Cherry Street. And George has been mowing that meadow with his tractor. The stretch. Yeah, that's George's property.
Oh,
So he's got a big, 6-foot brush hog attachment for his farm tractor, and he mows that stretch where there isn't boardwalk, which is really nice because that's kind of a pain. There's really nowhere good to park there with the trailer to unload our mower. Although that hasn't stopped me before. I just kind of blocked part of Cherry Street. But George is happy to do it. And I think since he's moved in 3 or 4 years ago, he's like, I'll mow it, I don't care. And so I've kind of turned it over to him on a semi-official level. And he's got my email. If he ever, if his tractor breaks and he can't mow it or something, he can email me and ask me to do it. So we can talk to him too. Part of the problem maybe with the wetness there is he is driving a big tractor. I've seen where he has to turn the tractor around when he gets up close to the boardwalk, and it doesn't. It's got a fairly heavy footprint. I mean, it's a farm tractor. So it's not as easy on the terrain as our lawnmower is. Let's put it that way. So we may have to look when things thaw out and see, and maybe put some either just planks like we used to do, those plank bridges, or some boardwalk type stuff. But yeah, any other items, or could we adjourn?
So with this, oh, sorry, I have a echo. No, it seems okay. So with the Excel spreadsheet, thank you, Bill, for putting this together.
that's
Do you
great.
want to be the owner? And so then I would send you the notes I put in tonight, or do you want
Tell
me to
what
own
you
it?
have and I can clean it up, and then we can send it out again and just make sure it's got what it needs.
Okay, so Bill's gonna be the parent of the doc. So if you have any notes that you want to add, just send them to him and he'll try to incorporate them all together.
Sounds
I'll
good.
send you what I put in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So I will.
Love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's a great effort.
Yeah,
Thank you,
nice
Bill.
work, Bill, putting that together.
Nice,
It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
nice work.
Yeah.
Very nice. I've wanted to
Well,
do that for
it
years.
reduces my emails to you, Brian and Bob.
Yeah, it's good for clarity too,
Mhm.
to get some of the things fully documented, so that even when a question comes up, we can refer back to it and use it
Yep.
as a checkpoint.
Yeah, and as things change with the DCAM or whatever over near Lyman Street, we can update it and keep it current, and I think it would facilitate things for new volunteers who come on board. Certainly a good idea.
Oh, I have one last thing. I know from the minutes before, I had some notes about Blackstone Valley NEMBA had been looking to do work in Northborough, and then there was a change of leadership in Blackstone Valley NEMBA. And so that was put on pause, but I managed to get myself stuffed on the leadership team as an at-large member. So we'll probably this summer, if we're looking for pure labor, we'll probably be able to drag NEMBA into the fray. So possibly for Pisgah related stuff or other places that are more like a mountain biking destination.
Yeah, get some.
What's your title?
I'm just a at-large member of the leadership team. So I took a pass on becoming their president. I didn't have enough time to fully commit to that. So
Wow, president of NEMBA, of the Blackstone Valley
chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that would be fairly fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one more thing that we talked about briefly. I'm trying to share it. This was the senior center trail. Can you see it?
Okay. Wow.
If you want, since it's already late, we can just put this on next month's agenda. And we can just think about what loop we want to start. I think the easiest would be one of these, around the pond. Or down here, there's already been some cutting from the disc golf. These loops up in the northwest part of the plan might need a little bit more work. But definitely we can start breaking them in, getting a loop. Because, the goal of the project was to get the seniors outside. So
Yeah.
I think we can still create a senior-friendly trail, eventually and then, so I can send you this if you'd like. And then you can start thinking about it. We can talk about it next month, or if you want to dive in now, it's already 9 o'clock. It's up to you.
I think next month would be fine.
Okay, I'll put it on next month's agenda.
I think, like Brian commented earlier with the snow, we've got a couple months, I think, before we can get out there and do.
But it is so hopeful that next month's meeting is the March meeting. So,
Yeah.
Put on March agenda. All right. That's all I had. I was just going to tell you about the DOT grant, but we already talked about that.
All right. So I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I think we have to go through and identify ourselves again. Is that correct, Mia?
That's right.
So my name is Bob Mahalik. I'm the chair of the Trails Committee. Bill?
You just have to say you vote to adjourn. Aye.
Oh, aye.
Jim Stein,
Aye.
Forrest Lyford,
Aye.
and Brian Belfer,
Aye.
and staff member Mia McDonald.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I don't get a vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you out on the trails.
All
See ya.
right,
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Aye.